You've seen them working collisions or conducting traffic stops on South Carolina roadways, keeping traffic flowing at special events, and protecting the peace at our state's capital. But the uniforms worn by the men and women of the South Carolina Department of Public Safety, much like the traditions in which they are steeped, were not created overnight. Stitch by stitch, year by year, the classic militaristic look of these troopers and officers has become synonymous with service, excellence, and respect. And it's an image from which the Department of Public Safety has deviated very little throughout its 30-year history.
In the past 20 to 25 years, we're still wearing the same color uniforms. We're still wearing kind of the same shirt. They're very, very particular on the historical significance of how the Highway Patrol looks and how the DPS officers look in general.
Fetchheimer Brothers Company, which owns the Flying Cross brand, is not just the uniform vendor for the South Carolina Department of Public Safety and its 3 law enforcement divisions. With a relationship that predates the department itself, they are quite literally woven into the fabric of South Carolina's largest law enforcement agency.
We have been utilizing their uniforms for decades and decades. It goes back to probably the late 70s, I would think, early 80s, when we switched to, or DPR, at that time the South Carolina Highway Patrol switched to this particular gray uniform. And we've always just had such a great relationship.
The Pennsylvania State Police was a guiding force for the then newly created South Carolina Highway Patrol in 1930, serving as a template for South Carolina state troopers, not just in their policies and procedures, but also in what they wore. The first South Carolina patrolmen wore charcoal gray with long-sleeve poplin shirts for winter and lighter gray shirts for summer. After World War II, the uniform changed to forest green and tan or khaki, and then in the late 1970s, the patrol overhauled its color scheme altogether and introduced the gray and blue uniform still used today.
That look, that uniform that was put into place with the proprietary color for the SCHP has stood the test of time.
That look was so timeless and classic that when the Department of Public Safety was established in 1993, it was adapted and slightly altered for use by the State Transport Police and the Bureau of Protective Services.
The uniforms are the same material, the hats are the same material, the shirts, the pants. It's just a different color than what the SCHP troopers wear. It's a newer uniform, same look, same classical appearance, and they're constantly working to try to get a cooler material for the officer to wear, a little more comfort, but still have that same classical, historical look to it.
While each division has variations of dress-down uniforms or BDUs that come from other vendors, Fetchheimer and Flying Cross provide the formal uniforms our troopers and officers wear, known as Class A uniforms. In addition to the uniform, the campaign hat is expected to be worn by all troopers and officers in their formal Class A long-sleeve uniforms.
We're very conscious of the fact that our customer has to wear this uniform, and we want the man or the woman wearing it to not only be proud of wearing it, but to be comfortable in it so that they can do the function in the job that they're asked to do.
It's a mission not taken lightly by Fetchheimer, which produced uniforms for both the Union and Confederate armies during the Civil War, and now provides uniforms for all 5 U.S. military branches, 25 state police or highway patrol agencies, and numerous police departments.
We're fabric engineers, we don't cut corners. So we have all the garments we have on the shelf are of equal high quality to something that's custom made, whether it's in a uniform or whether it's in what we wear every day. When we first meet someone, we form that first and oftentimes lasting impression.
Jetto understands that impressions can go a long way when it comes to opening lines of communication between law enforcement and the communities they serve.
We want the uniform to represent the job that we're being asked to do. In law enforcement, we're being asked to interact with the community, to support the community, and a professional uniform properly fitting the wearer allows that person to gain the respect of the individual.
Recruits don't receive their uniform until the end of their training, but for most of those asked, they still remember the first time they saw their reflection in the mirror.
I felt accomplished. It's quite a process to get to this point, and there's a lot of trials and tribulations, and finally being able to see myself in the uniform, knowing that I've at this point made it through the hard parts. I felt really proud.
Initially, when you approach any officer that works for the Department of Public Safety, you look at them and you're just like, wow. I had never run into a South Carolina Highway Patrol trooper until I moved down to South Carolina. And initially, what I saw was the uniform. It stands out. It looks good.
And keeping that uniform looking good requires time and attention to detail.
It actually starts picking it up from the cleaners, checking it before I walk out of that store. If it is not creased correctly, if it is not pressed correctly, then it stays. It starts there. Once I get it back home, and the night before I go on duty, it's hanging up, and I'm going over that uniform looking for threads, looking for anything that would not make it look its best. So it all starts then. And looking at that uniform while it's hanging up gets you set in the mindset of being ready to go out to work the next day.
When it comes down to it, this uniform is much more than just a shirt and pants.
It's a sense of pride, and you don't want to let everybody else down that wears the same uniform or wear a similar uniform. So, when you go out and you look your best, I believe that's the best way to do it every single day. So
I've always believed in that the way you wear that uniform is a source of dignity, pride, and others see that. It actually spreads into the job performance and what you do. At least for me, that when I knew I looked my sharpest and I looked my best, when I kept my car clean and I went out to work every single day, that was the standard that I'd already had set for myself. So the citizens of the state of South Carolina was going to get my best on that day.